Hey Rom, how are you?
Hey Justin, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy Monday. We don't always meet on a Monday for a What's on Your Mind. Exciting change.
There's a first for everything. Yes.
Indeed, indeed. So now we can reflect on how our weekends were.
Well, I've been doing a fast, a multi-day fast, because my DEXA score results were not to my satisfaction, and so I want to cut the fat. And the fastest way to lose weight is to stop eating. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's true. I guess if calories in and calories out, if your calories in are zero, that changes the equation.
It helps a little bit.
It does. So how do you like to approach fasts? Because I think you've done them successfully. I have personally struggled with fasts.
So most of it is psychology and mindset, as with many difficult things in life. The first time I attempted to fast, I got hangry. We all know what that feeling of being hangry is. You get very irritable and no one wants to be around you. You know what that is a shortage of glucose, and your body is craving glucose because it's powered by glucose, which is a form of sugar. So there are tactics to transition to a state where your body is running on ketones, and it's metabolizing energy through ketosis, which is the metabolism of your fat. So now that I've done this a few times, it's a lot easier for my body to adapt and get into the rhythm of it. It's mostly psychology at this point and avoiding the distractions of work and family and having prompts around you of good food that you want to eat or the sensations of food that we enjoy in the kitchen. So that's really what it's about. Uh, Having partners and friends work and sharing your commitment with others and what you're trying to accomplish so they can hold you accountable also helps.
How long do you fast when you do it?
So I've been doing this fast for 3 days now. I'm going to keep going. Uh, the reason why is this: the first day is the hardest. Once you break through the first day, you don't have appetite. You might have a hunger sensation through the release of ghrelin during lunch and dinner. Those are 15-minute windows. If you go for a short walk, you listen to a podcast, then that moment will pass. That's the key thing. What people make the assumption is that this moment will persist forever. We assume that that suffering will stay forever. A lot of lessons between fasting and life, really, right? So, but because that first day is the hardest, once you break past that, you just want to keep going because you've got a natural momentum and you feel good too. My sleep requirements lessen, my resilience improves, my quality of thinking is more refined, I've noticed. Now, last night my kids woke me up. I had 4 hours of sleep, so it's a rough night anyway. So two offsetting effects.
Interesting, interesting. And have you ever tested whether your body is in ketosis in the
Yeah.
past?
Yes, the first year I was doing this, I was obsessive about measuring my ketone bodies by taking a blood testing measurement and consolidating all of that on a spreadsheet, very much like a diabetic would. I would measure my glucose, I'd measure my ketone bodies. What I noticed is after some time, I could actually intuit my level of glucose and my ketone bodies where they were. And so I stopped testing that. And that's pretty cool when that happens. But if I were to do a 4 day fast or 5 day fast, I probably would want to measure that. One, to just see the overall level of ketone body generation. There was one time where I hit like five, I think millimolar is the metric of ketone body generation, which is high. And everyone's metabolism is different, so it's useful to measure to give you your own psychological comfort around this millennia old practice. But some people are not predisposed well to fasting. My wife was fasting while breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is caloric intensive,
Hmm.
and she actually triggered ketoacidosis. We had to take her to the hospital. So I don't want to alarm people around ketosis and fasting, but you cannot be in a net extreme caloric deficit where your body is manufacturing like milk. She was going through the weaning phase, but the body's still producing milk. So it's a
Yeah,
special case.
that is. So when you said your
Mhm.
ketone levels were high, is too
Mhm.
high bad? Is that like I'm not sure how you know
Yeah.
you're in that ketone acidosis
So
or
the level of ketones in your body are a representative like the energy that's circulating, and that's also regulated through homeostasis, same way your glucose is. Your body will take steps to release insulin to make sure your glucose doesn't fall below or go above, right? Hypo and hyperglycemia. And with ketone bodies, if your ketone bodies go past like 8, it's a red flag. 10, 12, ketoacidosis. Now,
uh,
I just want to be clear. I don't want to, that's not the typical case, but and most people will use that as like a fear trigger and will not explore fasting, unfortunately, which is a mistake. But if you measure, like I did, and you also supplement with salt and magnesium, that helps a lot. The electrolytes, salt and magnesium will go a long way. I just pour salt in my hand and I lick it and I hydrate regularly. Another thing that can help is bone broth, 0 calorie bone broth or chicken broth. It gives you a little bit of flavor,
mhm.
some taste, and it also has electrolytes. The other thing, if you need a bridge to do a full water fast, is Dr. Walter Longo, who is uh, an expert PhD physician on longevity. He has something called uh, the Prolon diet. Prolon diet. I think like pro longevity is the term, and it's a package. It's a couple hundred calories, and they deliver a package with like soup, some olives, and a short like cracker, and that will also get you into a ketonic state. That's a great gift idea for someone where maybe they are trending towards diabetic, pre-diabetic, or obese, or high BMI, or less physically active, or lower energy. Because the other benefit of all this is the metabolic conditioning. So the other thing that happens is when I break my fast, the energy I feel, I can go crush weights in the gym. Now, I'll still have good energy in the gym tomorrow if I do CrossFit. In fact, I'll still exercise because that will protect against the muscle amino acid degradation, right?
Yeah,
So exercise, that mTOR gets activated. So it's important to exercise. But again, the other hand is once you consume food and you consume protein, your body reconstitutes all of that quickly. So don't use that as an excuse not to fast.
very interesting, very interesting. And so you're gonna go one more day, you think?
I'm going to take it day by day.
Day by day.
I'm kind of tempted to push myself really hard and go through like Friday and set a new record.
What
I'm
is the
kind of
current
tempted
record?
to do that. My record is 4 days.
Okay.
So I'm at 3. Tomorrow I'll be at record.
Yeah,
Now, Wednesday, I have a bunch of meetings in New York, and several of them include like lunches or dinners. That's the challenge.
that is.
So that might actually be what forces me to stop the fast. Because if you put food in front of me, I know my weakness is that that voice in my head is going to say, you know what, you did a good job. 5 days, you're hanging out with your buddy. Why don't you enjoy that nice pasta dish or whatever it is. So I don't know. We'll see. That's something that may happen. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. I think 4 days is a win. 3 days is a win. Don't be too harsh on yourself, and let's see what happens.
So one
I
more
don't want to make the
follow-up.
other party uncomfortable. That's actually another factor,
Yes,
right? It's
I
like
understand
you
that.
don't need a guy that's like, hey, sorry, I'm not going to eat, but I will have black coffee and I will have teas, and that might be a way to bridge it. Or maybe I don't know. I do chicken noodle soup, but here's the other part: when you start to consume things, then your body says it's time to eat. The ghrelin hormone comes on strong, and you want to eat. So the irony is losing weight is easier when you fast than by lowering your caloric consumption. And my view is, I think there's good academic research out there. We should interview someone around this. Is that, if you look at people on that TV show, The Biggest Loser, they lose like 100 pounds over this 3 month session. They gain it all back quickly. And the hypothesis is that their basal metabolic rate declines. So even though they're consuming lower calories, they're putting on the weight again. And now you're in the worst of both possible worlds. Not only do you have the same level of weight, but your metabolism is lower, which means your energy is lower. That's why I like fasting, because you don't have to have that trade off.
Interesting. Interesting. So you did a DEXA scan just to kind of close the loop, and you felt like, hey, I could do better. And so, when are you planning to schedule a follow up? And besides fasting between now and not continuously, of course, but and the next DEXA scan, what else are you thinking about doing diet wise?
I think in the next 6 months, I'll have the DEXA scan follow up. Ideally, I'll have achieved my target weight there. The last time I did deliberate conscious fasting over the course of a year, where like once a week I said, okay, I'm going to do the fast this week, this day, a few days. It was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I took my body weight down from 200 pounds to 177 pounds.
Wow.
And I was lean and energetic. Your body, when it doesn't have to rejuvenate 20 pounds of mass, you don't have to walk around with that. You've been to the gym, maybe have one of those weight chest packs on, I think you were sharing, right? It really weighs on you. I mean, you feel nimble and fast. And when you have young kids, you can keep up with them the faster they get. So I think in 6 months I'll do that. My DEXA scan showed that I have 30% body fat, which I was surprised. I go do CrossFit 3 or 4 times a week. It's pretty intense. That was surprising. I look like I'm in good shape. People tell me I'm in good shape, doesn't mean anything. What people say, you got to look at the measurement.
Right.
And then the second thing, my bone density was lower than where it needs to be.
Okay.
So I got to figure out the right remedy to that. I'm talking to the doctor as a follow up soon. What I heard from one of our clients who's deep into concierge medicine, I know you are too, Justin. You might have good advice for me also, is consume more protein to increase bone density. I've already been doing vitamin D and K2. That's the typical treatment. And I do 10,000 UIs of that. I have been doing that for years. So I did increase that to like 15,000 now instead of 10,000, which is above the baseline guidance.
Yeah. Interesting.
Heavy weights too. Heavy weights. Like if I can do heavier weights, I'm going to try that. That's the best practice, right? You tell me, what am I missing here?
I not to substitute for talking to the doctor, but I would
Yeah.
also say heavy weights, protein, and calcium.
Yeah, calcium is probably where I have a deficiency. I might have to bring back, yeah, calcium in some format or food type, or I got to think of the best way to do that.
So
Trying to eat more fish.
I give my kids a calcium uh, vitamin, like a chewy vitamin at night, and I just got in the habit of having them with them at the same time.
All right, I'm gonna one click order that now. But is that material in terms of the contribution it makes to your body?
I don't know, actually. It's a great question. I just said, well, calcium can't be bad for me, so I'll just
Right.
do these.
We gotta GPT that and take a look. But yeah, that I think calcium is one of the areas I gotta focus on.
Yeah, interesting. So you've been fasting. I have not. Again, I mentioned I'm not a good faster. It's very hard for me. I enjoy my blood sugar being higher because I can feel it getting lower in those
Oh
situations.
yeah, yeah.
It's
I
very
know what you mean.
it's
Yeah.
very tough. So I instead of fasting this weekend, I spent the weekend cooking.
Wow.
Yeah,
You did the opposite.
very
I was
opposite.
net burn of calorie. I was export of calorie. You were import of calorie. We had a trade balance.
That's right. Net neutral though.
So did you have a go-to dish, or were you learning something new? Is this a hobby, or is this a part of kind of your role in the family? How do you relate to cooking?
So definitely a hobby. Love cooking. It's not my role in the family anymore. It was at certain points in time. My wife is now an amazing cook. better than I in most categories of dining, which was not the case when we met. But now she has vastly surpassed my capabilities, much to my own delight, because I get to enjoy it. She does
Nice.
not like baking, though. That is an area where she does not like to venture. And so I still have dominion over baking activities. And so the weekends, I also try to cook breakfast, let her sleep in, and I baked a new dish. So this weekend, I both did a regular standby and I experimented with a new dish. So the regular standby is pancakes. And I have a recipe that I now follow from a little breakfast bakery in Santa Monica, California called Huckleberry. The pancakes are the best. The um, cookbook calls them my dad's pancakes because the author, Zoe Nathan, her father made them. Unfortunately, my kids call them Huckleberry pancakes. So they're not dad's pancakes, but they're Huckleberry
Sounds good.
pancakes, which
They'll
is
remember them as dad's pancakes when they grow up, though.
eventually they will. That's true. So those are standby every weekend now. The kids beg for them, so that's part of breakfast. From turning on the griddle, getting the pancakes ready, and
So
then
do you go full on maple syrup on that, or how do you think about the glycemic load of the pancake? Do you consider like protein substitutes, or do you just embrace the pancake and enjoy it?
oh, I embrace the pancake and enjoy it. My so there's three types of pancakes that get cooked. One son likes plain pancakes with syrup. Another son likes chocolate chip pancakes, no syrup. And then I'm the outlier. I'm a blueberry pancake all day, every day kind of guy.
With syrup.
No, maybe yeah, a little bit of syrup, but blueberry
Nice.
pancake is the
I'll tell you, I'm blueberry with syrup and some whipped cream and maybe some butter too. But I don't do that often.
yes. It's it's great.
So I'm the outlier over there too.
Oh, if I had some fresh whipped cream, I would have thrown that on too. I like to make fresh whipped cream, but I didn't have any heavy whipped
Totally. You gotta savor
But
all of it.
then what's been teasing me is that I go to this recipe book every once in a while to double check, hey, do I have all the correct measurements for the pancakes? And on the cover of this cookbook is this gorgeous blueberry brioche bread that it's like a sliced view, and you see blueberries kind of like swirled in the brioche bread.
Oh
And
wow.
so it's been calling my name for months since this cookbook's been around. And I finally said, this weekend I'm doing it because it's a 2 day affair. You got to prep the brioche day one and then put it in the fridge overnight and then let it rise for 3 hours out and then bake it. So it was like a lot of commitment.
What's the total effort in terms of where you need to attend to it and do something apart from getting the ingredients?
Um, well, probably an experienced person with one doing one loaf, maybe 30, 40 minutes, but I had never made bread before, so I was
Right.
being a little slower.
Right.
I find so for me, baking is very different than cooking. So for me, cooking is not relaxing. I love cooking and I love the output of cooking and I love like being close to my own food. I love cooking for other people, but it's an intense activity for me. I get very intense. I get very focused. There's a lot of things going on. I'm trying to mentally juggle all the timing, and I'm not the best person to be around in a kitchen. I
It's like
understand why
competitive cooking.
chefs in kitchens are harsh.
Oh yeah.
I've worked in the front of the house of restaurants growing up. I never worked in the back of the house, but I saw chefs, and I understand then what that intensity level feels like. Baking to me is the complete opposite. Baking is meditative for me because I can take my time. I can just measure. You have to be precise. And
Ooh, that's interesting.
a science component to it, right? Like I can't go a little bit over and under versus cooking where it's like, oh, I'll put a dash of garlic and
Right.
put a splash of olive oil or whatever. Cooking is a
Yeah.
much more precise. And that
Baking is closer to gardening and meditation, whereas cooking is closer to like high intensity, leaf blowing or something.
Yeah. I think you're right on the gardening one for sure. It feels very meditative to me when I cook. I feel relaxed. I threw on some
Ah,
music,
that's
relaxed,
cool.
worked worked the dough all the way to completion and felt very good about it.
So the satisfaction you get from it, is it the entire process and the result? Is it the state of your mind as you're cooking, like feeling the sensation of the dough that you're kneading with your hand? What drives the satisfaction that you feel?
First of all, great question. I would say two things provide equal satisfaction. One is the process feels very relaxing to me. So I feel
Mhm.
very organized. It's methodical. I know exactly what I have to do at each step. If I don't know what to do, I have a guide of a cookbook. I can look down and I can say, oh, okay, I'm at this step. There's very little to no stress in that process, and it's
Right.
very organized. So I like that, and I like the pace of it. And then I would say the second part that's very satisfying is if others enjoy it, that level of having provided something to someone else is great. So like only my one of two sons wanted to try the blueberry brioche. My other son didn't want to try it with blueberries, and so there was not a lot of, oh, this is so good. I get that with the pancakes, and that feels good. I'm like, oh, I gave them something that they makes them happy. Blueberry brioche was very personal. I cut into it. I loved it. I ate like half the loaf in the morning. I felt great about it, but I didn't get the same kind of enjoyment of seeing other people love and enjoy this.
Fascinating. The way you describe baking is kind of how I imagine someone would do a Japanese tea ceremony,
Mm,
right? There's precision, there's a set of steps. It seems to me like what you were describing has the same like meditative result from someone, that does that. I get that kind of state actually when I do dishes sometimes, not
yeah,
all the time. I much rather enjoy doing dishes than many other things in the kitchen. But
that's a very good analogy. I like doing dishes, and I like cleaning actually. I used
yeah,
to not
cleaning,
realize, but now I've realized I actually really enjoy cleaning. I like the result of a clean house. I love, and the process
yeah,
of organizing, putting things away, that is very satisfying.
yes, totally agree.
Very satisfying. Well, holidays are coming up. I guess we should close. What's like one holiday dish you're either going to cook and enjoy or enjoy that somebody else cooked?
Oh, good. So my mom, we always spend the holidays with her upstate New York. She always makes a beef tenderloin,
Mm,
and she picks out the tenderloin. The chef has kept it aside for her because she does the same thing for like 20 years straight, and she prepares it with the right seasoning and the right horseradish dip on the side. And I'm an avid consumer and fan, so that's what I'm looking forward to.
yes, that sounds great.
How about you?
I love beef tenderloin. Love a great fillet. That sounds.
What do you have what you're looking forward to?
So I would say that I will probably try to cook a new pie. I'm gonna delegate or not cook or just enjoy everything else others prepare for the holiday. But at Thanksgiving, a number of pies were purchased from a particularly great bakery near where we celebrated Thanksgiving. We came to discover that I think their standards drop during holiday time because their production probably increases dramatically. And I was dissatisfied. Normally, I love their pie. So I was actually so excited when we finished Thanksgiving and cleaned up and then sat down to have one of these two pies. I had a slice of each. And
Ooh,
both were disappointing. And I was really upset because normally it's difficult for me to not eat like half a pie from one of those places in one.
I'm with you. I will take out half the pie
Yeah.
through multiple. sorties on target after the reveal throughout the night and then breakfast the next day.
Yes.
It's, oh boy. That's why I got to do the fast now.
There you go.
That's what I'm doing.
I did do so I'll cook a pie. I'm not sure which one. That'll be my go-to. I will say not fasting, but I do have a trainer who I meet with remotely, and she is the first person who ever convinced me to count calories a couple years ago. So I counted calories one time a few years ago. It was really, really hard, but I did
Yeah.
it to get into a calorie deficit. And recently, after I did a DEXA scan, actually, also, and I didn't like the results, I said, I need to do something. And I spoke to her, and she said, this was 4 weeks before Thanksgiving, exactly. And I told her, I'll wait till January 1st and then we'll do something. And she said, Justin, you have 4 weeks. Why don't we just do a quick 4 week deficit? And I said, oh, okay. So she got me in shape for the holiday season. So I'm
She's
good.
coaching you. That's cool. That's
Great
good.
coaching.
Yeah. It's good accountability. Cool.
Indeed. All right. Well, Rom, as always, great talking to you.
Likewise. Until next time. Somehow have not worked up an appetite during this conversation, despite the discussion of cooking. I was kind of expecting that didn't happen. By the way, if you do want to explore fasting, there are resources and books and videos you should look for online. I think we'll post one or two in the notes. Talk to your physician as well. Look, it's a millennia old practice. There are definitely some healing benefits I've noticed also. And yeah, enjoy.
There we go. All right. Talk to you soon.
Take care.